I'm sat with Heartbreak. I'm Pop from the Chapman Family, by the way, in case those who don't recognise my face from the NME.
Well, that would be ridiculous.
I think so too. But I'm sat with the band Heartbreak after their tremendous set at Manchester Academy this evening.
That's
right.
And
I'd just like to say hello, Heartbreak.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello. Right, okay, I've been asked to conduct this interview in a very professional and brilliant style.
I hope
so. The first question what I'd like to ask is, now I know that both of you have death metal backgrounds. Is that true? Is that both of you, or is that just Ali, or is that just Sebastian, or is it like you both are into the death metal scene?
Yeah,
is it more thrash or is it death metal?
Ali's more in the thrash and I'm more in the death, but obviously Ali is much more of an expert in metal in general. But
and I'm
very fond of it. Yeah.
Were you both in metal bands to start with? Is that sort of the background that you came from?
Ali was.
You were in metal
I
bands.
discovered metal about 5 years ago as something that was incredibly relevant and something that for some stupid reason I have missed.
Yeah. I mean, is that an influence for the sort of sound of Heartbreak? Because obviously the sound is sort of, I was saying to Ali earlier, that a lot of your sort of bass lines and drum beats are very sort of heavy and they drive the sort of songs in a very similar way that metal does.
Yes.
And is that sort of a thing that comes from
Yeah,
metal?
it's like a sort of thrash, funk element of thrash that is sort of used with machines basically. Yeah.
I mean, do you sort of like build sort of the songs around the bass lines and then sort of put the keyboard riffs in, like obviously like a metal song you would have a driving sort of standard line, like a standard sort of repetitive sort of riff sort of thing going on. Is that sort of way that you would write your songs?
I think we generally start with the drum
with the drums
bass,
and then work up?
Drums and bass work up.
Yeah, always really.
Yeah.
It would be fair to say.
Exceptions, but yeah, it's pretty much.
And then another thing sort of, Sebastian was telling me the other night that a major sort of ethos and influence for the band is death.
It's yeah, I guess so, yes.
Is that, I mean, where does that come from? Like, what is that? How does that reflect itself in the music?
Well, the problem with your question here, I'm sorry, I don't want to be
no problem at all,
conflicted,
please.
but there is a problem with your question, I'm afraid. And the problem is that tomorrow we're going to be delving into the subject in more depth than I could be bothered to go to at the moment. Because the thing is that when you talk about death, you have to talk about dance.
Yeah.
And that's, you told about, I could teach you some dance moves and stuff. And what I want to teach you is the philosophy behind it, which is mainly about death.
Yes.
So everything is around death.
It's the other thing, I mean, like a lot of your lyrics are sort of quite uplifting and quite sort of romantic and sort of harken back to sort of like quite, I mean, I hate to sort of throw the sort of 80s comparisons in there because it's very lazy, but a lot of your lyrics are very reminiscent of like 80s bands and 80s lyrics where the main focus is on dancing and fun and sort of enjoying yourself, and like there's a song on your album called Living Just for Fun and things like that. I mean, is that sort of important ethos as well? I mean, other than like death and the dark elements of the songs, is sort of enjoying yourself and love and things like that important as well?
The thing is, if you're enjoying life, then the first thing that comes to mind is what is stopping this enjoyment, and at some point it's death. So whenever you are very passionate, intense about the vital elements of your life, then the first thing that anyone with a minimum of mathematical abilities, the first thing that this person would think is what's stopping this? What's stopping this? Death.
And is there any particular song that sort of references that the most? Is there any one song that sort of really sort of is the sort of heartbreak anthem, that, as it were, like the sort of song that represents everything that you're about in sort of one sort of song, lyrically, musically?
I think Soul Transplant.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Soul Transplant. That's one of my favourites of the album. That's why I was asking about the song.
Soul Transplant.
Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Because that's got some really exciting lyrics as well. Like I was speaking about it the other night.
Yeah,
about
it just encapsulates the whole, quite a few angles that we're coming from, isn't it? Lyrically and musically.
Because obviously, and that's that's
Where are you sitting? Oh, you have to turn out
Have a seat.
It gets serious. It's like parking.
Get him in!
It is like the way you're like at an angle. And then you've got.
You have to come a bit further so that we can see you.
Hello, welcome to the interview. Is there any questions you'd like to ask Heartbreak about their sound, their ethos? We touched on a song the Heartbreak have called Soul Transplant, which is apparently sort of the song that represents the ethos of the band. And I was just about to comment on how the band has a lot of, like the lyrics of that song particularly, have a lot of 80s references, Mr. T, Molly Ringwald, pink trench coats, things like that. Is that sort of like, was that purposeful, or is that sort of an area that you're knowledgeable in and chose to write lyrics about?
Well, obviously you're talking about enjoying life, but if you if you pay attention to that song in detail, you know it's mostly dealing with the past, and what's gone, and how to deal with that, and, you know.
And that's where the 80s references come from, sort of referencing the past and things like that.
Yeah, and it's about how you deal with the story that is gone in a time where time is perceived in a very particular way. No?